There are some great takedown boots currently on the market, but there are also some that are bulky and uncomfortable. So what category does the third takedown Puma Future Match fall into? While these boots are going to be a lot better than some entry-level options, there actually could be some other choices at this price point that you may want to consider. So in this video, we're going to cover all the features, both good and bad, of the Puma Future Match. And at the end of the video, if you're interested in picking up a pair, or if you're interested in any of the other boots we discuss, I'll leave links in the description where you can find them for sale online. So to kick things off, talking about the design of the Puma Future Match here, it's going to be really similar if you've seen other variations of the Puma Future. So this boot's going to be centered around a one-piece upper that has some stretchy knit material running through the lacing system and around the collar. Then throughout the toe box, you're going to have textured elements that will give you a little bit of grip when you're on the ball. Now, one thing I'm pretty confused about with this variation of the Puma Future is that you do have a power tape here, which is the zigzag feature that you see on the side, but it has essentially no grip to it whatsoever. In fact, if anything, it's literally smoother and more slick than the rest of the upper. So for that reason, I think that the power tape there is just for aesthetics alone. But if you like how that looks, then it could fit your style. Now, as far as how this upper compares to the more expensive versions like the Puma Future Pro and the Premium Future Ultimate, it is pretty pliable, but it's not quite as soft as those more expensive versions. I definitely get a more plush textile feel from that Pro version that's a little bit more expensive, whereas this just feels a little bit thicker. Additionally, the upper on the Match here is going to be a little less sticky as far as grip goes compared to the Pro and the Ultimate. That being said, you are going to get at least a little bit of traction from the smaller dots here towards the toe box. Flipping over to the back of the boot, you are going to get an identical sole plate to what's found on the Puma Future Pro. And that sole plate is going to feature a combination of both bladed and conical studs. It's really snappy and rigid, and while it should be suitable for most playing surfaces, some are going to find this a little bit too aggressive for AG. Personally, if I'm using boots on artificial grass, I do generally prefer that they have full conical studs rather than these sharp, aggressive chevrons here. But if you're playing on natural grass, the sole plate is going to offer more than enough traction. And from an overall aesthetic point of view, I do think Puma does a pretty good job mimicking the look of the more expensive Puma Future. But for me, what's more important than the looks is going to be the fit and the feel. And for me, unfortunately, the fit and feel of these boots was just okay. And you see, I actually remember wearing the Puma Future Pros and reviewing them just a couple weeks ago, and those boots really took me by surprise at how comfortable they were and at how fun they were to play in. But with the Match version here, I just didn't get quite the same sensation that I really liked in the Pros. The upper felt a little bit more rigid throughout all parts of the boot, especially towards the toe box area. And with the Pros, I felt like I did have enough room for my feet to really stretch out in that area, whereas with the Match here, I just felt like my toes were a little bit more restricted and cramped. And for me, when the boots just aren't fitting that comfortably, it's hard for me to feel like I'm at my best. And another important point is that these boots didn't feel quite as minimal as the more expensive versions either. So they felt a little bit heftier on feet, and the upper was noticeably a bit thicker. And that's not only the case when you compare it to other variations of the Puma Future, but it's also the case when you look at a competitor like the Vapor 15 Academy. Because the Academy is going to come in at around a similar price of $70 to $80, but it has a much more comfortable fit and a thinner upper. But that being said, the Future Match is still an upgrade over some cheaper boots I've tried in the past, like those around the $50 to $60 range, and it's definitely an upgrade over the Puma Future Play, which is the fourth takedown version. And if I were to pick out something that I did like about the fit of these boots, it's that the lockdown is pretty good from that lacing system, and you're able to get these boots tight enough that you're not going to have any slipping in the heel. So moving on to what it was like to play in these boots, to me it did just feel like they were missing what kind of makes the Future special to begin with. Because for me, the first thing that I think of when I think about the Puma Future is going to be that really soft, flexible, and comfortable upper. And from the outside looking at these boots, I really thought they might deliver on that feel, but once I got them on, they just weren't the same. And you have to remember, I'm holding these to a high standard because I think the Future Pro and Future Ultimate are two of the most comfortable boots in Puma's lineup. And while I still think this is a good boot, it just doesn't quite offer the same sensation as those models. The touch isn't as close on the ball, and they feel a little bit more stiff when you're running and dribbling. So for me, just by comparison, they weren't my favorite takedown boots to play in. I personally got more enjoyment from boots like the Tiempo Legend 10 Academy, the Vapor 15 Academy, and even the Copa Pura 2.3 from Adidas. And while I was wearing these boots, the only thing I could think of was that I wished I was wearing the Future Pro. But let's talk about the value of this boot, because of all of its qualities, that is one of the strongest. Because although its original retail price was around $90, you can now find it for $70 or even less. But it's really important to keep in mind that there's actually a decent amount of competition at that price point. because you can find the Vapor 15 Academy from Nike for about the same price, give or take $5 to $10, and in my opinion, it's going to be a more comfortable boot and it has a much thinner and more minimal feel. So what are my final thoughts on the Puma Future Match? Well, if you're looking for a sleek, lightweight, and minimal football boot for just around the $70 price point, I would actually recommend going for the Vapor 15 Academy from Nike. But if you do really like the style that Puma brings here with the Future series, I would recommend saving up just a little bit more and going for the Future Pro. Because you can find the second takedown Pro model for just around $110, which is about $30 to $40 more expensive than the Future Match. And the Pro is going to be a much more comfortable and better performing football boot. So in my view, that makes it definitely worth the upgrade. And at the end of the day, keep in mind, everyone's foot shape is going to be a little bit different. So while I found these a little bit restrictive in the toe box, you might find them a little more comfortable. So let me know in the comments if you've gotten the chance to try these boots on and what you think of them. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.